Even if you go to the NSD, there's no guarantee in the quality of education that you will get. Sad to say, but that's it. That's the fact.
There is a question that Uta Hagen, Stella Adler, Stanislavski, Stephen Book, Meisner, whose method to follow? Or learn from everyone and do what suits you best? That is the question.
That's the answer as well. Very well answered. Your question provides the answer. That's brilliant.
Yeah.
Yes, you, as much time and interest that you have in acting and reading all these people, you don't follow any particular one. All of them worked in a different country and in a different time period and a different professional setup, which doesn't apply to Stanislavski. He was doing theater over 100 years ago in Russia, in feudal Russia, before and then after the revolution there. I mean, our situation here does not compare with that at all. The kind of theater Stanislavski did and trained actors for is no longer relevant, to my mind. So whatever it is, you read what you want from just from a historic, an interest in history and what has gone before. Ultimately, you have to find out what is good for you, what suits you, what makes sense for you and becomes your approach to acting that you can rely on.
Yeah, there's similar questions that, I have done an acting course or I am beginning. So when is the time to stop my training and start auditioning?
Never. Why give up? Why give up? Whenever you're free and there's an acting workshop to attend, to learn something new from another director or another group of actors, then do it. It's good fun, and learning never stops. The world changes, I mean, once you've done, as with all education, you do your education when you're 18, 20, 21 years of age. And then you think your education is finished for the rest of your life. That's no longer true because the world changes so fast these days and knowledge also changes. So you've got to keep up with the world, keep up with new knowledge. Films keep changing, the way of making films and the stories, and theater has changed significantly over time. So you've got to keep abreast of those changes. The world changes. So does the art in that world, and the theater and the film world. So you also keep changing, keep developing yourself to the extent that you can.
There was also a question related actually that, there are lots of acting courses which are happening. So how does a person who is starting out choose for oneself? I think it's quite related. I mean, the answer that you gave right now that.
Yeah, well, we're all different.
Yeah.
What appeals to you may not appeal to me or to Shalini, and we'll go to 3 different schools and we'll all find that we've wasted our time. So it's a matter of trial and error. Sadly, I mean, even if you go to the NSD, there's no guarantee in the quality of education that you will get. Sad to say, but that's it. That's the fact. So go where your interest takes you and where you're happiest and where you feel you're gaining the most. That's the place to stick to and to learn from.
There are a lot of questions on method acting actually. Should we apply? There is a question that if we are given a role, then how to decide whether we should do method acting in that role or not. And
method acting has got itself a dirty name these days. It was very fashionable, and even now these days, people run off to America to do method acting. It sounds so wonderful, doesn't it? I'm a method actor. What the hell does it mean? Again, you're just following the instructions of somebody else, whether they suit you or not. And the fact is, it's got a lot of bad criticism lately because method acting has a lot to do with your memory, sense memory, and so on. And that is actually, people have begun to describe it as self-abuse. Your memories are something very precious to you and your life. And to use them in your work and you use and abuse them, it's not a healthy thing to be doing, actually. What you do, the character that you play and what you have to do in a play or a film is not you. It's not your story. It's not your method. You've got to find, who is this character? What method suits him or her? It's not you. It's the character that you're searching for, not your own comfort zone.
Yeah, there is a question that how does one know or understand when to stop preparing and leave room for spontaneity? Is there a thing called being over-prepared?
I don't know. I don't think so. You can never be you can never be over-prepared. The more work you do, the more homework, the more preparation, the more thinking and experimenting around your character and your relationships, the better. It will all stand you in good stead when it comes to that moment of performance, especially in film. In film, the camera comes so close that you can't fake anything. Well, you can, but then it's very evident you're not convincing. People can see when you're faking it, or when an actor is really putting on an emotionally charged performance. So by the time you come to perform, you've got to be so relaxed, so free and easy. Remember, these characters are not highly tense. They're not uptight and wanting to give their best performance in every dialogue or in every scene that they're in. They're just like you and I. Most of the time, they're just living their life. They're not particularly tense. They're not particularly emotional. It's only at key moments in the script that you need to become a little more emotional than usual. And that would be graphed. If you're a good actor, you know what scenes you are in, and you work out literally a mathematical graph which has high points and low points in terms of the energy or the emotional. It's an emotional graph that you draw just from 1 to 10. That gives you an idea that in the first scene, you can't be at 10 because nothing great is happening in scene 1. And generally, there's only one scene in which you are at the greatest height of your emotion. Every moment that you're on, the thing is with young actors, they want to do well and they try too hard to impress every moment they're on stage or every moment that they're in a film in front of the camera. But that's not the art of the game. The art is just to be believable, to be a person who's involved with their life and living their life and going about their daily work until something in the story upsets them or comes in conflict with what they want to do. So then that's when they get charged up and get emotional. Not every moment. What was the question?
Spontaneity. Yeah, no, I also forgot. I think it was on how long to prepare. Is there something called over preparation?
You can't be over prepared. You've got to know your dialogues backwards. You've got to know what it is the director wants from the scene. Maybe the movement is worked out and choreographed, so that you have to practice and practice and practice so you get it right. Because when you're working in a film, you're not working alone or even with other actors. You're working with the camera, the cameraman, who has to know where exactly you'll be standing or sitting, because he wants to have you in focus. If you come too far forward or stay too far back, you'll be out of focus. So then the director will say, cut. Sound, lighting, all these things we have to learn to work with and play with in our work. So there's a lot to do, and the sooner you get comfortable with doing it, like I said, yeah, you can't be too soon or too overly prepared.
There are lots of questions coming on. Which books to read on acting that you would recommend?
Have we got 3 hours to give a list, go through the list?
No.
Again, follow your nose. Pick up a book, see what it says in the blurb and the front cover and or the back page, and see whether it interests you. And take it from there.
There is a question that how to be flexible while acting.
Well, you keep fit. You're flexible because your body is primed to move. We have to play different rhythms. Different characters have a different rhythm or a different way of walking and sitting and moving. Generally, that has to be discovered, and that's where your flexibility comes in. Every character you play, you aim to make that person feel different, look different, behave differently than the previous one that you performed. That's the sign of a brilliant actor. Every new role, they seem to be somebody new. Some actors get lazy about that. We know who the actor is, and we don't see the character. We only see the actor, which is so unfortunate because no, you have to be very flexible. That's your voice has flexibility in your body, in your voice, in your thinking, your imagination. It's all about flexibility. Your flexibility in getting on with others, not getting hassled, not being arrogant, not creating arguments, amongst the team, and so on and so forth. Everything revolves around and works with flexibility. Don't get hung up. Don't be obstinate in what you want to do or the way you behave, and so on and so forth. The way you relate to others. That's so important. To be a professional, that's what it is. Be very flexible. Be open. A good director may change things at the last minute, just at the point of shooting a scene, because he wants to keep his options open. If he has a last minute thought or a last minute idea to improve the scene or to improve your character, your work as an actor, then why not do it? But again, that's a question of flexibility. If you're so adamant and so, what's the word? So, mechanical in what you do, then you're done for. Then I don't think you'll have a very great career if you aim to be in any which way mechanical in what you do, in what you are as a person and as an actor.
There are some related questions that since acting itself is an act, how can someone be natural? And another related question that how to be at ease and comfortable in front of the camera.
Well, that's just what I've been talking about.
Yeah.
By being an actor that is physically fit and flexible with a good voice that is changeable, that doesn't break whenever you have to shout, and so on and so forth. Yeah, I mean, and like I said, you're so prepared. You've gone over it so many times physically. You've gone through it. You've dreamt about it in your head. You've gone through the scene and the movement. So you're very familiar with it. You're very relaxed about it. You know the character has to look relaxed unless it's a highly emotional scene. But like I said, most of the time, characters are just living their life. They're going about their daily work. So there's no reason to be not relaxed.
There is a question that is there any difference between theater acting and film acting?
Obviously, in the theater, you're up on a stage, and the audience is out in one direction. Usually, of course, there's theater in the round or a semicircular relationship with the audience, which is a bit problematic actually. But usually the audience is out there in front. So your performance is out front. And but then for the audience, you're always in long shot. They always see all of you from head to toe on the stage. So, and to make clear for those at the back of the auditorium, which can be several hundred feet away, then you have to perform a little larger than life. Your voice has to, you always test your voice to somebody sitting at the back of the auditorium to know how loud you need to be. Otherwise, if you're not heard, then what's the point? The audience is going to get very restless if they can't hear you or understand what you're saying. So theater is about playing frontally to a live audience and projecting. It's projected. It's larger than life, somewhat, unless it's a very intimate theater, a studio theater, where the audience may be within touching distance. So again, that depends. But then film is so different. The audience isn't out there. The audience is the camera. And the camera can be right there. It can be this close, where you don't have to project anything. It's every wrinkle, every nerve of your face and your gestures, your looks, every twitch of your eyes is registered by the camera. And it moves out, it moves around, it goes behind. The camera is amongst the actors. It's not out there, it's here amongst you, with you. And you have to learn to work with that. And very rarely do you look into the camera because obviously that breaks the illusion that you can't see the people watching the movie eventually. So you never look directly into the lens unless you're a newsreader looking into the lens. That's your role, to look into the lens. But as a regular character in a film, you don't look into the lens directly. Yeah, so there are other obvious kinds of differences between the two fields. And of course, the making of the film is so different from the making of a play. In making a play, you start at scene 1, you go to scene 2 in a logical progression and fix everything as you go along till the end. But when you're rehearsing and and especially when you're shooting a play, the first day of shooting may not be scene 1, it may be scene 31, which you are not even in. You're in scene 1, but that scene will have to wait. Films are shot according to the locations. At a particular location, all the scenes which are in that location usually are shot before then moving on to another location. There are so many people involved, there's so much machinery, so much cables, lighting cables and generators and so on, which have to be shifted. That's a big job. It's like an army on the move when a film unit moves. So the tendency is to shoot all the scenes in a given location together. So the first scene of shooting, like I said, is scene 31, not scene 1. Doesn't go in a logical. Scene 1 may be the last scene to be shot. Who knows?
There are some questions on how to work on getting clear speech, good speech.
Practice from all those silly exercises, going ooh, ah, ee, stretching your mouth, and you're learning to play with all the syllables of the language and correct pronunciation of words, and then playing them at speed. You say your dialogues as fast as you can. You may even perform them as fast as you can, as quickly as you can to get to the end, and still be audible, still be understood. But then eventually you'll come down to a normal, more regular speed. And it's just practice. There's no magic. There's no pill you can take which will give you good speech. You damn well learn how to speak well, the same as everybody else who does.
There's a question related to speech that, sir, sometimes I stammer the words when I start. How can I improve it?
Well, that's a sign of nervousness. Stammering is ultimately a psychological problem. So maybe you need some advice. Maybe you need some. You may need to see a doctor of some description about that. There are speech specialists these days who help you with these particular problems to do with speech and the development of your voice and so on and so forth. So that can be cured, that can be looked at, and that can be helped. So don't worry. You've just got to seek out that help.
The question is related to improvising. That how does one improvise? Sometimes we run out of ideas while improvising.
Shameful. Shameful. You should be whipped if you run out of ideas. I'm only joking. No, but that's the test. That's the test of improvisation, that you get very flexible in your thinking, that you don't get lost for words or ideas. I'm improvising now. I have no idea what damn questions you're presenting to me and screwing my mind. But I have to deal with it. I have to cope with it. And I have to give some reasonable, comprehensible answers. So that's what I'm doing. I'm improvising.
There is a question that there are a lot of us who are coming from a background where we have been studying and working in a different field altogether for years.
Yeah.
Is there any specific approach you would suggest for us to activate our emotional and imagination triggers to step into the zone of being an actor?
Oh my God. Well, I guess you need a 5-year incarceration somewhere, and to be completely brainwashed again, all over again, into other sets of belief about what to do with your life, what's good and what's bad, and what's yeah, we are led to believe, aren't we, too soon, that we have to be officers, we have to be corporate people, we have to have a nice big car and a good job in a nice plush office, and we have to have a nice big house, and to please our wives and our children with all the good things in life, television, washing machine, etc., etc. An artist actually doesn't believe all that. We resist that. We rebel against that. An artist has another set of values which are to do with, I know I sound stupid if I list them, but values to do with just being free and creative and to enjoy life, to find happiness not in material things, but in the value that attaches to things in a more natural and believable way. So in a sense, you have to start from scratch. You have to start reading good literature, different literature than you were encouraged to read. You need to lead a different kind of a life, a little more adventurous life. Travel more. The more you travel, travel is a great education to my mind. Going to different places, seeing different people in different walks of life and different ways of living, different cuisine, and so on and so forth. Again, it comes to this question of, you've been educated in a very rigid way, and your job has put you in a box and defined you in a very rigid way. So the thing is to break through all that and have a sense, with a sense of freedom. Did I say join the Freebirds Collective? Well, that would be one answer, but we're not the only people who deal in freedom and creativity. I think most theatre groups would be doing that, or dance groups, or art groups, poetry circles, singers, dancers, musicians. There are a whole tribe of people who have different values than those corporate types.
There is a question that what are the most common mistakes or patterns you have observed in actors? Common mistakes that actors make.
Again, I need about 3 hours to go through that. Yes. That's too open a question. There's as many different individuals as there may be. There can be as many different problems that they have and confront. One is who they are as a person. Acting has nothing to do with the way they live or their day-to-day business. They think acting is something up there which happens, which has got nothing to do with routine life, which is a mistake. You don't have to become a different kind of animal to be an actor. You can still be a human being. In fact, the best actors are those who convince us that they are real people leading a real life and facing real problems, just like we all do in our own life. So, and the other thing is to realize that it's going to take, how long is your course? God, I don't have 3 months. I have to be after 2 weeks, I want to be an actor. Hello. I don't know which magic shop you will go to that will make you an actor in 2 weeks. It takes time. You've got, it's a whole process of becoming, to be good. I'm talking about being good. Like Ronaldo is good at football. He was playing football since he was a kid. And he's got exceptional skills, which have stood in good stead. He's world-renowned and with multiple awards for the way he plays football, because he realized how patient and with what dedication he would have to train himself. And then the payoff is there for the rest of your life, as with a good actor.
Sorry, please go ahead.
No,
please go ahead. Please complete.
No, I won't.
Please complete.
No.
Sorry. I was coming to the question. There are lots of questions around concentration.
Yes.
Yes. Good. And yeah, they're different, like there's a question that, camera, film acting, there are a lot of technicalities and involved while perform. Then there's a query about, how do I keep excessive thinking out when I'm working on a character inner, and generally about concentration.
Yes, we say proverbially that concentration is the mother of all our skills as actors. I guess for other artists too. If you're playing Mozart on the piano, you need a hell of a lot of concentration to play all those notes in the correct order and in the correct time that Mozart wrote it. So it's the same playing a script. A good script, whether it's Shakespeare or Kalidas or any modern playwright, you should know it so well that it just rolls off your tongue. Like I keep saying, or I'm repeating this. What particularly was the question?
Concentration.
Concentration.
See, on film set,
yeah.
Externally,
by the time you come to perform, you keep all your homework behind you. You're not worried about what Stanislavski said or what your teacher said or what what concerns you had in training. You forget everything. You've just got to be there, concentrating on who you are and what you're doing. in that scene? What is the scene about? What's its purpose? And that's what you focus on, nothing else. And you're in the moment. You're concentrating on the other actors to see what they give you, how their dialogues reach you, and how does that affect you, or the gestures and so on and so forth. You want to be in the moment and fully concentrated to what's going on around you, not thinking about your homework, not what there's no time for Stanislavski or anybody else at that moment. Ultimately, you have to trust yourself. And the best thing to trust is concentration. Don't be flippant, don't be over confident. Realize that you have an enormous responsibility to remember your dialogues, remember your moves, to be relaxed, and to concentrate on the other actors and feed from them what they are giving you. So your reaction is not a pre-programmed reaction, but it's in that moment, according to the way they may never have said it in that same way before, until this moment in this shot. But you have to be alive and flexible enough to cope with it in that new way. So it inspires in you a new reaction from you. So all that, yeah, concentration is the mother of all our skills. It's the most important aspect of the actor's work, to my mind.
There are questions on how to deal with rejections. Like, I think this is coming from audition and film and industry space, that there are rejections after rejections that you face. How do you keep going with your work?
Well, you have to realize that there's a limited number of films going on at any given moment, even though India makes more films than any other part of the world, hundreds, 700, 800 of films a year, roughly, when there's no COVID around, that is. So, but that's not an awful lot in terms of the number of, in this country, every other person you meet wants to be an actor. It's a national obsession to be a film star, which doesn't happen in any other country. So in that way, it means there's a lot of competition. What am I saying? What's the question?
Dealing with rejections.
Dealing with rejection. Oh, if you rationalize it, not everybody who lines up in a casting lineup can be accepted. It's just not possible. And the production people and ultimately the director, it's their choice. So for every one that's accepted or taken in there may be 100 people who are rejected. You have to learn that that's part of the business, just by sheer numbers, the mathematical aspect of the film industry. So, I mean, it happens not only with actors, it can happen with cameramen and editors as well, that they're out of work until the next opportunity comes along. So accept it. Don't think it's your failure. It's a failure of the system that there are not 8,000 films made every year to accept every actor that wants to act. But that's not possible.
There is a question that if you're coming, say, from Bihar or Orissa, you carry a regional accent.
Yeah.
How do you get rid of it, is the question.
You work. Every part of an actor's skill set is to be able to speak the language, whatever your language is, English or Hindi, with these regional accents. As an actor speaking English, I should be able to speak Australian English. I should be able to speak American English. I should be able to speak English with a French accent, and so on and so forth. that's part of what you have to practice to do what the role requires of you. If you can't do it, then you won't get cast. That's another reason for rejection. They're looking for this particular character who may be from Orissa or Bihar, but yet who speaks English as though he's from Karnataka or whatever. Because that's what happens in India. People move from their homes in order to find work. They go and live in other places. So they pick up different accents and dialects. So an actor has to represent that sometimes in their stories.
There are questions, quite a few of them. When are you starting your own theatre group?
As soon as possible. I'm just waiting for this bloody pandemic to bugger off and get the hell out of this country, and I will happily begin my work as a director. I will start offline workshops immediately, and I hope then to begin to be able, once I've found some interesting actors, good actors to work with, I'll start my direction work as well. But I don't want to be in a situation. Right now, I'm still doing online workshops because there is the threat of a third wave hitting India. And with this Delta problem thrown in as well, which is even more infectious than the original COVID-19. So I don't want to be blamed for actors becoming sick. I don't want that responsibility. So I'm very cautious. I'm waiting until there is no issue at all about actors coming together and working happily together without the fear of catching COVID or Delta, for God's sake.
There are a lot of questions coming on how to be natural while performing. I think you've already partly, answered, but please go ahead.
Observe life. When you're sitting on the bus or sitting in a cafe, watch people, look at people. They don't suspect that you have a camera on them. If they did, then they would act quite differently. Everybody acts differently when they feel there's a camera focused on them, even if it's a still camera. So observe people. You've got actors have to be great observers of life around them all the time, picking up cues and clues and ideas about characters and how people behave and react to different situations. There's no magic. Again, there's no goalie you can take. Well, you could take a goalie, but then you'd be so relaxed you fall asleep.
There are also questions on observation, that how important is observation for acting?
Very, what do I just say?
That's what you're just talking about, right?
Yeah, of course you have to be very observant. And observant not about the people on that bus and in that street. You've got to be observant about people all over the world. An actor must have an interest, have an awareness of what's going on in the world, and know the reasons for it. You may not be interested in politics. I'm not. Who wants to be interested in politics? It's a dirty game. But yet we have to be, because we're all going to, this whole planet is going to die one day if we don't know what's going on and we don't push our leaders to making more serious and responsible decisions about the state of the world and the state of the earth and its animal life and its climate and so on and so forth. Actors have to have the pulse, have their fingers on the pulse of what's going on in the world, because you have to represent that. In a good story, it will come in. It will make a difference to your character to have that awareness. Sorry, that was a bit rushed.
There is a question that what is the advice that you would like to give to freshers, people who are just starting out, who want to get into acting? Everything, I guess, that you said today evening.
Be as fresh as you like. The fresher, the better. and get into acting in any which way that you can, whether in school or in college, one-act plays, short plays, street plays, puppet plays, any damn thing which gets you aware, gets you into the business of entering this fictional world of the play, whatever it may be. And short films, it's so easy to make a short film these days.
We have time for one more question. What do you think is the importance of rhythm in acting?
I saw importance of, God bless you, Rishi, that's so important. In my mind, in my workshops, rhythm is one of the crucial things.
Yes.
In fact, I'll share with you this idea that I have. As soon as we get space, at the moment I'm home and we don't have a workplace, even if we wanted to do offline workshops. But as soon as we do, I want to start one evening a week or once a month where people will come and just dance. I'm not going to teach any dance. Nobody teaches dance. And the whole point is just to enjoy dancing, good music and dancing, getting friendly with each other. No drugs, no alcohol, nothing but dance. You get high on dance. You get ecstatic. You can get into communities in the world do and have done for many centuries. You get high on dance. And that's the best way to learn rhythm, with good music, because rhythm comes into everything that you do. Every film, every play has its rhythm. Every scene in that play has its rhythm. And it can fail. The audience may not enjoy it, all because the rhythm has been too slow and boring. Or it's gone too fast and nobody has understood the bloody word. It's gone so fast. So rhythm is crucial for each actor, for the whole scene, and for the whole play. Everything has its rhythm. And it's so important. A film also, more so than anything else. Rhythm, editing, an editor knows what rhythm is all about. He's the guy who makes the film, cuts up the film, and puts it together in a rhythmic way. So it's one of the key, most important aspects of the work we do as actors is to do with rhythm and our control, our sense of rhythm. It's very, very important. Thank you for that question.
Yes. So we are at 8 p.m. And thank you so much, everyone, for taking time out and joining us virtually, sharing your thoughts, asking your questions freely. And we started punctually, we finished punctually. So hope to see you soon. We want to do more of these sessions. Barry, please go ahead.
We can do it again. We can do it again.
We'll do it again.
Yeah, it wasn't so painful as I thought it might be.
No, yeah. So great having all of you here. And yes.
Be free.
Feel free, yes.
And see you soon.
Be safe, feel free, be happy.
Yeah.
Great conversation, great chat. So much of thinking and reflection and ideas and everything.
Good.
Thank you very much.